WWE starting the post-WrestleMania calendar with Backlash from St. Louis, Missouri. In the main event, it was John Cena taking on Randy Orton for the undisputed, but kind of disputed because there's another world champion, WWE Championship. I thought the build for this was really good. I really enjoyed what they kind of put together and how they put this whole thing together. I thought they did a great job with it and tying in all the old footage and everything like that. There was some of the promos and stuff leading in that was a little bit like, really? Like Randy Orton saying, oh yeah, always knew he was a bad guy. Always knew he kind of sucked. And there are some snippets of things you can take from Total Divas where it's like, oh man, this dude seems like a bad hang. But again, it is tough to paint the picture that the guy who has the most Make-A-Wishes of all time is actually a shitty dude. That's a hard sell to make. But still, when you tie in the past history and everything like that, and John Cena kind of continuing this, I'm going to be the last world champion and I'm going to erase your family history, I thought that could have been played into a little bit more. Again, you have to take a couple logical leaps with, like, they decide the lineage of all of these things, right? So it would be nice for them to just, kind of tie some of that together. But I do think that there could have been a little bit more done on the history dynamic of it rather than oh yeah, this guy was just bad. In terms of the match, it was a bit of a slower pace, and you knew that was going to be coming in. John Cena is at a place now where he is working a slower pace of a match, and Randy Orton has been at a place for basically his entire career where he works a slower paced match. So you kind of expected coming in that this wasn't going to be Will Ospreay against Ricochet and the best of the Super Juniors, right? That this was going to be a story heavy match. I did think that there was another gear that this match could have got to, though. They tried to do it with a bunch of the ref bumps and all of that. And look, I will say this. Like, as far as I am concerned, I thought it needed another gear. That crowd didn't. That crowd in St. Louis was behind this whole thing the whole time. They were there for all of it. So credit to them for that, because that was a crowd that made this feel like a big match and a big time event. And so, like, they probably made this match kind of feel better than it was when you just look at the in-ring aspect of it. And again, the whole point is to get the crowd into it. So a credit to them for that. But you still have this in your mind that John Cena matches tended to over-deliver, right? It wasn't always the prettiest, but there was a lot of emotion, and there was another gear that it got to, and this one just never got there. With all the ref bumps, R-Truth running in, and all of that, they tried, it just didn't really hit the way that I wanted it to. So now, you look at where do they go from here. The R-Truth stuff is interesting, and probably leads to a very violent and awful beatdown. And something coming along after that one, I would imagine maybe the way that they've been kind of attaching Jimmy Uso to it has me wondering a little bit. I don't think that's an extended feud that a lot of people would be excited about on the John Cena retirement tour, but it might be a way to get Cody Rhodes back into it to be the fearless defender of this guy who we all really like. The one part of it, everyone seems to kind of be analyzing and overanalyzing John Cena, seeming like he is already feeling a little bit bad about the way that this is happening. It feels a little too early, and now this is Paul Levesque era WWE, so this is a sprinkle and just a little nugget on the way for us. I don't think that this is something that's going to start to really whatever. I think it is something that's going to be kind of poked and prodded at on the way probably to SummerSlam, but I do think that if they were to advance this quickly, it's probably a little bit too soon, just given, how quick that turn was and everything like that. So maybe that is a way of getting The Rock back involved. Maybe I should stop thinking about trying to get The Rock back involved in all of it. But just like John Cena being like, I hate how I'm doing this, and The Rock being like, hey, this is the way. You wanted it, this is the way you have it, or something along those lines. So I think there's a couple of directions to go. I would imagine the Randy Orton direction is probably done for this go around here, and which means done forever now. And so I thought an appropriate tribute, given all the video packages and everything like that, but interested to see now where they go with this one here. In terms of the rest of the show, I thought it delivered. I thought this was a really great show. The U.S. title match delivered in a big-time way. All four guys, Jacob Fatu, Damian Priest, Drew McIntyre, and LA Knight, I thought they came up with real big performances. Unfortunately, it hurts a couple of them, with Drew clearing the table and smacking the head on the concrete, and it seems like Damian Priest got a little bit banged up in this as well. So it is unfortunate that both guys got hurt, but this was a really fun, really fast-paced opener, exactly what you want to start a show. And the fact that it's all guys who are kind of on the bigger side doing this, very impressive stuff. And just a really, really entertaining match. And then you get a little bit of the story added in as well, with Jeff Cobb debuting in the Bloodline. Not what I was expecting. I am certainly interested by it. I do think that having there is still value in the Bloodline and in having Solo being at the head of it. Because I do think, while people can be critical of Solo, I do think that he is improving. And I do think he is getting a little bit more comfortable in his character as the leader of this group. And so having him with some muscle, but having that, with all due respect to Jeff Cobb, having someone who won't have a personality that outshines Solo, I think will be good for kind of the perception of him as the leader of that group. And it just... with Fatu obviously outgrowing it, it certainly gives you a lot of very interesting kind of scenarios here. And like, do we now get another Bloodline Civil War where Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga start their own thing, and Tongaloa, and Solo then has to bring in more guys, and so it's Cobb, it's Hikuleo, and on that way. So it opens up a lot of possibilities. I'm very fascinated by it, and I think a lot of the matches are going to be really good. And once again, Jacob Fatu shows that he is an absolute super-duper star. Lyra Valkyria against Becky Lynch for the Intercontinental title, and I thought both put on a show. But this one was great. This was the type of showcase for Lyra Valkyria that you want. It is a story that people got invested in, that people cared about. It is against a character and a performer that people are invested in and care about. And then the in-ring really, really put on a fantastic display. And so this is what we've been talking for weeks, that they are obviously trying to make the Women's Intercontinental Championship very similar to the men's, where it is the workhorse title. And that is great, but you need the stories to get people invested in. And now this is the one that I think elevates Lyra. I think this whole storyline really does push Lyra into another category, push the Intercontinental title into another category. And so to now have a story for people to be invested in, and then have the high level of ring work that Valkyria is able to show, I think this was the perfect story, the perfect match. All of it was exactly what this feud, this performer, and this championship all really needed. And a loss doesn't hurt Becky Lynch at all. She comes out, beats the hell out of Lyra after, and we'll talk about Raw a little bit later on this week, but cuts a very good promo at the end of it to get people kind of fired up afterwards. So on Monday. So I think like 10 out of 10 no notes. It was... everyone in this story did exactly what they needed to, and because of that now, it has elevated a lot of things coming out of it. Dominik Mysterio and Penta, I thought they put on a great show. Once again, Dominik Mysterio showing that he is leveling up, and the crowd's getting behind him for this. You get some really fun spots. Once again, these two show they have fantastic chemistry, and they work together very well. Dom is showing that he really has more in his bag, and Penta is great at getting it out of him, and Penta is just, again, aura for days that he has. The one thing is that it does kind of feel like Penta is a bit of an afterthought in the entire Judgment Day story with Dominik Mysterio. And it kind of felt that way going into WrestleMania, that he felt like a bit of an afterthought given the big personality that is a Braun Breaker. Not that Penta isn't, but you have the champion, and then you have the kind of overarching story of the Judgment Day there. Penta just felt like and this guy is also really cool and awesome. And while that's great, and we can all believe that, I don't think it is helping him now that it has, the story has progressed, and he is still just we need to get this guy on the card, and he has a very, very pseudo tie to this whole thing, so let's just roll with it that way. You would like to see him get a little bit more out of this than he is right now, because while I do think, again, aura for days and everything like that, you still need to build the character up, and you can't just, he can afford to be in the background for a little bit because everyone's going to love the entrance and the Zero, Miano, and the look and everything like that. Like, you have a real star on your hands here, and while I do appreciate that there are only so many stories you can tell and only so many things you can build up at one time, I do think that he should be a bit more of a priority than he is being right now. Him and Rey Fenix as well. And then you get to the very interesting bout of the night, and it was Pat McAfee against Gunther. This was exactly what it needed to be. Pat getting beat up, a couple of hope spots, shows off his athleticism, and then beat up again. It is I think it's a tricky balance with him because he is a former pro athlete who is actually trained in this, not to the level of it being a crisp show or anything like that, but he is someone who, well, Punter did play a physical sport and played his position about as physically as you can, and has the athletic chops to do this at a relatively high level, and certainly a high level if he really just focused on that one thing. But also, he is a commentator, and he is not supposed to be competitive with one of the best wrestlers in the world. And so that's a tricky balance to kind of walk. And I thought they did perfectly in this match with McAfee getting missed the moonsault, lands on his feet. German suplex, lands on his feet again. Just really kind of showing the athleticism that he had. It puts on display Gunther and just being this absolute maniac psychopath who has no regard for human anything and just beat the crap out of McAfee. I thought it got everyone what it needed to. The crowd got behind him. It shows what he can do, and it delivers Gunther in a really strong way. And I understand from a commentary standpoint, from his show standpoint, and all of that, McAfee isn't everyone's cup of tea. But this was a really great showing for him, and it keeps Gunther in the spotlight. It gets him looking even more dangerous. And now, as we'll talk about with the Raw recap later in the week here, it sets him up in a way it sets Gunther up now in a way that he can go challenge for the title one more time. So, again, I would say, aside from the main event not being exactly what we wanted it to be, I think this pay-per-view, or this premium live event, was basically everything that it needed to be from a WWE standpoint. So a huge credit to them, and a very successful show as we continue on the road now, toward Money in the Bank and everything else that the WWE has going on.